It is the first Friday of the month, and with that comes our time to share what to read in December with our friends from McNally Robinson Booksellers. Chris Hall joins me once again live in the Classic 107 studios with some picks that you can hunker down with to brave the winter elements. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Nolan.
We're also joined by Kathleen Friesen from the Kids Books Department at McNally Robinson this morning, who has some holiday book recommendations for the children in your life. Good morning, Kathleen.
Yes, good morning.
Maybe we'll start with you, Chris, to see what has December been like in the store so far. I mean, we've had Black Friday, we've had Cyber Monday. How have things been shaping up so far?
It is noticeably busier. Kathleen and I were just this morning saying there's all these gaps. We're trying to replace books that have been taken away, so we have to fill in all the spots. So yeah, it is noticeably busier.
Sure, a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
I would say so. Kathleen, what kind of things in the kids' books department are you noticing people gravitating towards as they get into their holiday shopping?
Oh, it's a bit of everything. The fun up in kids is that we've got, books for everyone from 0 to, 14 plus. We've got games, we've got puzzles, we've got all sorts of stocking stuffers. Super fun to see what people are picking up.
Absolutely. And it's fun to see what you two are picking up and bringing into the studios today. Maybe we'll start with you, Kathleen, and the children's books that you're recommending this morning. Maybe we can start with Santa's First Christmas.
Good pick.
What can we tell us about that?
So if you're watching the video, I'm holding it up. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. This is Santa's First Christmas, written by Mac Barnett, who we know and love from his work with John Clausen especially. He's got a lot of great titles out. And Sydney Smith is the illustrator. He's one of my very favorite illustrators out there. He's Canadian. He just won the Hans Christian Andersen Award this year. First ever Canadian to win that. So very prestigious illustration award. So definitely a dream team. They've never worked together before. So very exciting to have a book from them. This is the story of Santa's First Christmas. So this story begins in the old days. Santa didn't have Christmas. So he worked hard all year building toys for all the kids, delivered them all around the world on Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Day, he slept in for about half an hour. And then he got back to work. And so one Christmas Day, the elves and a very helpful polar bear up at the North Pole decide, this just can't do. We need to celebrate Santa. He needs to have Christmas too. He makes everyone else's dreams come true, and we need to do something for him. So they make sure Santa gets the whole Christmas experience, from stockings to decorating and feasting, and even a very special visit from a bearded someone in red.
You've heard about self-care. Now we get Santa care.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah. You've talked about the illustrations in this book, and even the front cover is very evocative and very warm. What do you like about these illustrations by Sydney Sweeney? Maybe for those who can't see the book listening over the airwaves.
Yeah, he's got a really vibrant use of color, so lots of reds, and the things that he does with light in this book are incredible. There's this one spread where they decide they need to decorate all the buildings at the North Pole. So the first spread, everything's dark and dreary, and the next spread, they turn the Christmas lights on, and everything is just covered in this beautiful glow. It's just, it's so evocative. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so you've got something for the younger kids here. Now, I see you also have something perhaps like a bit of more of a YA selection. What can you tell us about the Firelight Apprentice?
So Firelight Apprentice, this is a graphic novel. It is kind of for middle grade, so about 10 to 14, but reaching into YA as well, I would say.
Okay.
So it's written and illustrated by Bree Paulson. She did a graphic novel a few years ago called Garlic and the Vampire, which we loved. It was very cute. So very excited to have a new one from her. It's a bit steampunk. It's a bit cozy fantasy, which is all the rage these days in the bookstore. So we've got airships, we've got magic. Basically, it's a story of two sisters trying to find their place in the world. They've just lost their mother in a recent war, and she was a very powerful magician. And it turns out the younger sister, Safi, is also developing her own magical powers. And the older sister is trying to basically help out at home, help the father in his shop, and also try and protect her sister from some evil forces that are creeping around the city. So very fun. Safi ends up joining a troupe of traveling magicians for training. And it's not clear who the sisters should trust amongst all these very helpful magicians. So,
okay. Something for some intrigue to keep us warm. How are you noticing the sales of graphic novels, perhaps comparing it to other things that you're offering in the kids all the way up through the young adults sections in this holiday season?
Yeah, they continue to be extremely popular, have been for a while now. They're really great for more reluctant readers, really having that visual help, and it's just the way that they totally immerse you in their world is really attractive to kids and teens and really all ages. So
absolutely. Why should the kids have all the fun, right? Chris, you've got some selections of your own here. Perhaps we can start with the Service Berry.
Sure.
What can you tell us about this latest work by Barbara Wall-Kimmerer?
Yes, well, Barbara Wall-Kimmerer is certainly one of the biggest names, authors of the season. This is one of the bigger titles of the season. She's familiar to many readers and many listeners, I suspect, as the author of Braiding Sweetgrass. Mm-hmm. So we have sold a couple of thousand copies of that book. So this new one is called The Service Berry: Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. And the service berry is... to the best of my knowledge, I've done some research. It's a little confusing for me, not having some kind of science degree, I think. Mm-hmm. But it is the name of a group of berry shrubs and small trees that includes the Saskatoon berry. Now, that's the most important part, right?
Of course. Very fitting for McNally Robinson especially, right?
So the book, Braiding Sweetgrass, combined indigenous wisdom that comes from the author's background, combines that with scientific knowledge. She explores what we can learn from plants. So this new book does the same thing with the service berry. It explores what she describes as its reciprocal relationship with its world. It distributes its wealth in these sweet, juicy berries, and this meets the need of its natural community. And this, in turn, ensures its own survival. And Kimmerer starts to ponder what this model of life could teach us, where it's a model where wealth comes from your relationships and not from illusions of self-sufficiency. So it's a bit of reflection, but also some scientific knowledge about the Saskatoon berry, but the service berry.
Of course. This book has a lot more of a holistic sort of a look at the world. How many people are coming into the store, especially during the holiday season when perhaps they're more concerned about their consumption and their materialism in the holiday season? How often do you find customers looking for products or books like the Service Berry to help them kind of along that line of thinking as they may perhaps to reduce their footprint?
Yeah, I think that books, by their nature, invite you to question some of your life choices or your lifestyles or things like that. Yeah, consumption is definitely part of Christmas, and a balance is definitely important. So there will be a lot of people buying this book. So I suspect that means that a lot of people do take a moment to ponder and reflect. I don't know how much it changes our actions. That's a whole different topic, but but we do. I mean, I've seen Winnipeggers, Manitobans buy a lot of very interesting books. They are thinking about things. I can guarantee that.
Yeah. Another thought-provoking author you've brought along in your list, Haruki Murakami. So let's move on to his latest novel, I understand, The City and Its Uncertain Walls.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this?
Well, a new novel by Haruki Murakami is always an event. I know many of his fans. I've met them through our booksellers over the years, and what I'm struck by is every Murakami fan you talk to mentions a different book that's their favorite. Everything from Wind Up Bird Chronicle to Kafka on the Shore to Norwegian Wood, 1Q84. I've just kind of concluded that means you can start reading Murakami anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So you can just pick up one and try. And I recommend that you give them a try. I've read several of them now. His novels always have an aspect to them that's slightly askew from the real world. You never know when frogs are going to fall from the sky, or you wake up one morning and there are two suns in the sky. But they're also very rooted in the real world. They're full of details of everyday life, descriptions of wooden chairs and spare rooms and things like that. This new one is a very dreamlike aspect to it. It's almost like reading a fairy tale, very much like reading a fairy tale, although one that's very rich in that detail. There's a real world in this book. There's a shadow world, and as the title says, there's very uncertain walls between them. I think my favorite part of reading a Murakami novel is being in a Murakami novel. There's something just so calm and quiet. It's almost soothing, but there's always this, I would call it an amusing twist. It's not usually very dark or very earth-shattering, but it just makes you think about the world because it's slightly askew.
Lots of our classical music fans will likely know Murakami's book Absolutely on Music, his conversations with the late maestro Seiji Ozawa. How, for the folks who might know his nonfiction like that one a little bit better, how do the fiction and nonfiction of Murakami compare? What sort of commonalities can you find between the two?
I haven't read a lot of his nonfiction, to be honest, to make that. But what I can say is I'd forgotten that he was such a big music fan, but until you start to read it, because he mentions music a lot in his novels. That's part of the detail of what he gets into. There's music going on. There's always food. They're always eating things, and that's always well described.
Sure.
So, yeah, I haven't delved into his nonfiction very much, but he is a huge music fan. You're absolutely right.
Right. Well, I mean, again, that is sort of evocative imagery, similar to the books that you brought along, Kathleen, as well. To your final pick, perhaps, of the day, people are thinking, of course, about journeying back to their roots during the holiday season. So perhaps there's something with The Voyage Home that people can take away from that. What can you tell us about this latest book by Pat Barker?
Yes, this is a novel, again, The Voyage Home. It is the third in a trilogy, the Women of Troy trilogy. The opening book was The Silence of the Girls. The follow-up was called The Women of Troy. Now this one is The Voyage of Home. So she has gone back to the Trojan War story. The overall story in the first two novels focused on Briseis. She was formerly the Trojan queen and then Achilles' slave. The focus in this new book shifts to an enslaved healer named Ritza and her mistress Cassandra, who of course has the powers of prophecy. Cassandra's warning of the carnage that awaits the Greek king Agamemnon as he returns home, but he, as well as all of his shipmates, completely disregard her. Once they make landfall, Ritza is just trying to survive, but Cassandra descends into this dark mood and cruelty and frenzy. And if you know your Greek stories, you know how this one's going to end.
Right.
There's no spoilers to give out, but there's something in the magic of retelling stories that it just takes on a life. She's so good at it. And it also retells the story from the female character's point of view. So that, of course, gives a whole different set of perspectives to it.
Yeah, it's that shifting focus in a well-worn collection of stories that makes this so valuable. And I know that you don't pick these books necessarily with a theme in mind, but again, it's about that shifting of perspective, questioning those things that we know about ourselves. For those who perhaps have read the likes of Homer, the Iliad, or even Homer's Odyssey, what do you think, having these books, this trilogy, how do you think that maybe would reframe some of these timeless classics if they went back and read them after having read this trilogy by Pat Barker?
Well, there is an obvious fascination with these stories that is ongoing. That the Greek stories are being retold, and books are coming out, novels are coming out almost too much right now. There's almost too many of them. It's like a trend of some kind. So there's something about these old stories that continue to fascinate us. I would say that there are a couple of highlights. Pat Barker would be one of them that does this very well. Natalie Haynes, who I've also brought on her books, Retelling Myths, is very good at it too. There is something deep about these stories, and they keep getting replumbed and retold.
Right. I'm going to put you both on the spot here for one final question. You've now told us about the books that you have each brought to the Classic 107 studios today based on the descriptions that you both just gave. Maybe we'll start with you, Chris. Which one of Kathleen's books would you like to read the most?
The picture book. I've just been staring at it while she was speaking. So
I did the same
I want to
thing.
get that book open and have a look at those photos.
I did
illustrations.
I did the exact same thing. Kathleen, Out of those three,
Oh,
which
wow.
which one tickled your fancy the most?
You know, it's been years since I've read Murakami. My favorite was The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, for the record. So, you know what? I think it is time to dive back in, and just the idea of kind of being in that other world for a while.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Those titles again from Kathleen Friesen: Santa's First Christmas by Mac Barnett, The Firelight Apprentice by Bree Paulson, from Chris Hall, The Voyage Home by Pat Barker, The City and Its Uncertain Walls by Haruki Murakami, and The Serviceberry by Barbara Wall Kimmerer. Kathleen and Chris, thank you so much for telling us what to read here on Classic 107.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.